Hello, everyone. Welcome to a meditation a day on EWN. We are here with Master Spiritual Teacher GP Walsh, and to all of our people that we've invited as well who are joining in. We are so happy to have you here. This is a little different than when you usually see GP and myself, Lisa Berry. Here on EWN, when we do a meditation a day, we show up on the first Monday of every month, and GP takes us through a guided meditation, which is not the norm. So it's fun to do these. I love these actually. And today we are talking about courage in action. And GP, I'd like to begin this little mini question and answer period before about the word courage and perhaps how we may have misunderstood it or use it differently than its most powerful way. Could we start with just the word courage?
Sure. We also abuse it. For me, the only courage that matters is the willingness to explore those areas of ourselves and the nature of things that are difficult to explore and most people simply ignore. To be willing to look at yourself soberly, intelligently, and honestly requires the highest kind of courage. Climbing Mount Everest is a piece of cake compared to that. And then once something is discovered, something you discover to be true, to live that truth, even though up to that point you haven't. So there's an internal resistance to it. And if that truth contradicts the conventional wisdom, there's a cultural resistance to it. But if you see something and you know in your heart and your bones that it's true, you kind of have no choice. There's no turning back from that. Right? You can bury it for a while, you can pretend, but it's got you. The serum has been injected. It has to take you over. And the most difficult of it is the resistance we have within ourselves when we see something about ourselves that is true. And there's this whole momentum of your life that's been living exactly the opposite. So there's all of this pushback coming from you, right? And then we've gotten so educated into certain ways of seeing things. When we see something different, we're put into this conflict of what am I going to believe? What I've seen, or just all these old habits of thought and the cultural resistance and all of that, or am I going to be true to what I've seen? That's, to me, is the essence of courage. It's not just, running into danger for a cause. That's kind of it, like somebody at war or something like that. Oftentimes it's just almost just pure instinct. But the kind of courage required to do the self-examination that leads one to a completely different view of reality, that's courage. That's a special kind of courage.
With that, that's really, I love how deep that is. It's a different way of looking at it. And before going into this meditation around it, when you said it's when we see something and we have resistance to it because now it's there, it's in front of us. It's not just witnessing it. We don't just see it. We're awakened to it, I guess. If we don't like it and we have that resistance, so we're butting up against it, we're like, oh no. Is that the time that we do this self-inquiry or meditation, or is it that we've done the self-inquiry meditation and now we're able to see it?
It's both.
Yeah.
It leads up to it, and then it makes the adjustments after the fact. Because any insight, however deep, is going to run into the old habit patterns. It's inevitable. And what do you do with those, right? Some are so reflexive that they're on you before you even know it. And everybody's had that experience, right? Suddenly you find yourself thinking or acting in a way that is no longer appropriate, right? And it's happening anyway. You really have to be willing to come face to face with those unconscious reflexive patterns that are totally automatic. And so it takes inquiry to get you there, and it takes inquiry to bring you home.
Always pack your inquiry. Okay. Almost
Yes, don't leave home without it.
Well, I would like to invite everybody to join GP in this guided meditation. And he always likes to do a fun little twist because it's self-inquiry, it's guided meditation, it's a little bit of everything. I just love how you pull this together. So thank you everybody for sharing this time with us. We'll join GP. I'll be in the background and come on back after.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It's your show now.
It's my show now. Yeah. All right. And I will mute you too, Lisa, so you don't have to worry about that. All righty. Since this is a meditation, I'm going to invite you all to close your eyes. In meditation, closing your eyes isn't absolutely necessary. There are some practices where you leave them open, maybe even just stare at a wall or something like that. But in closing your eyes, it's kind of a signal to yourself that you want attention to turn within. Because the reality is all of the answers that we seek for any aspect of our life are within. This is something that has been revealed by saints and sages for all time. The answers you are seeking, no matter what the question is, lie within you. And that's really the first step of courage. To turn away from where you know the answer is not, towards where you at least have faith that the answer is, even though you cannot see it yet. And it's like looking off into this dark emptiness, and somebody's told you, keep looking. The answer is there. But you know in your heart that it isn't any of the places you've been looking. Yet it's so hard to let go of them because they're here, they're visible, there's classes I can take, there's books I can read. To turn from all of that to just be with yourself as you are, nothing extra added, requires courage. You probably didn't recognize it as courage. But every time you sit quietly, close your eyes, and turn within, that's courage. As always, our more common cultural definitions make courage this glorious thing in battle, or holding out for the best, or investing in something. But those are all just on the surface. And I can say that because none of them challenge who you are. None of them bring you to the center of you. They all involve some kind of external action. So just this simple act of turning within, of bringing your attention there, of bringing your desire for answers here. This is actually also the nature of prayer. So now just sit quietly and watch. Even that impulse, that desire to find something, to get some concrete answer, to even to attain some kind of special state. Watch that too. Just watch everything. When you do, all sorts of things are going to arise. All sorts of thoughts and feelings will arise. And you'll feel a very strong impulse to engage with them, to follow the storyline, in the hopes that this storyline is going to lead to whatever it is that deep in your heart you're seeking. It won't. It can't. It doesn't have an answer. So just watch. You're just being the witness. And again, this is courage. To simply be in this quiet without running off with your mind is courage. And it's not really action, but it's not inaction. It's very focused. It's very intentional. It's not the kind of overt action we think of, but it is not passive. It's quite active. Now, just let yourself feel that deep desire we all have to know who we are. Every desire you've ever had in your life has actually been just a version of that. And just be present with that desire without coming to any conclusions about it, without imagining what it might be. We don't need imagination here. Simply being present with nothing here but you. Desire comes and goes, thoughts come and go, feelings come and go. Some thoughts will come up and may even make a shudder run through your body, some unpleasant memory. And then you'll feel the impulse to want to distance yourself from it. Just stay here. Just stay here, like Buddha under the Bodhi tree. I am not moving from this spot until I have the answer to suffering. This is the spot he was referring to. It was not someplace in India. And as you do that, notice how the mind does begin to quiet down. The quiet, that quiet, which is also peace, becomes more evident, more palatable. And relax more deeply into that quiet. What if that is the answer you're seeking? Notice that quiet, which earlier looked like kind of a dark emptiness, isn't empty at all. There's something very real here. Something that's there when thoughts are there, when feelings are there, no matter what they are, whether they be wonderful and elated or be quite miserable and ugly. The content is not the same as the awareness of it. And just stay here. Ramana Maharshi would say, abide here. Make your home here. It is very different than our everyday life of activity. But for just these few moments, let this be enough. Make this meditation not a solution to a problem or a stepping stone to some achievement, even the achievement of enlightenment. Just let this be presence for its own sake. And notice that you are here. Can you feel your own presence? It's very quiet. It's just presence without motion, without any action. It takes courage to come here. But notice it doesn't take any courage or anything to be here. Courage is required to leave behind everything that isn't true. But it's not required to be what's true. Now, if your mind has got any questions and the like, just once again, notice, but don't engage. I can tell you in advance that mind likes to take meditation and anything you've experienced in meditation and turn it to its purposes, to make it something other than what it is, to make it a means to an end, a stepping stone. But it isn't any of those. It's just this quiet, constant presence that is your very self. And just ponder that for a second. Is this presence anything different from you? Or is this your presence with nothing extra added? And take a deep breath. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
I love how we go so far, but nowhere. I love it. One of the most beautiful things, and I'm sorry, I have to apologize. I had to take notes for a little bit of that, but I was able to stay there. It takes courage to come here, but not to be here. That is incredible and powerful. And I see where that's going, that the courage is to be willing to leave behind everything that's not real. But I love that it says it doesn't require courage to be what is true.
No. It's just a characteristic we need in order to arrive, because there's so many distractions and things along the way to try to get us into a detour, into a cul-de-sac.
Yes. Oh. And I also love so much about it's action, but it's passive, but you are still doing something. It's more of a being. It's courage and action, but not the kind of action we think. I love what you said about the step
Yes.
and achievement. It's that surface. Oh, that's right. None of them are challenging who you are.
Yes.
It's beautiful, beautiful. I'm going to just read some of the comments that are coming through here, see what some people have thought about that. Thank you, everybody, for being here with us. Thank you, EWN. Hello, everyone. And so we have Blinky Boo is sharing with us, I have so much trauma woven into my nervous system that even in meditation, such as this one, does not ignite a storyline. However, there is this knowing of what lies dormant. I resorted to bypassing this lifetime to die with this awful ache. Even so, it doesn't feel like this body mechanism could live through any divine intervention.
Well, first thing to note is that we're yes, you're carrying a lot of trauma in your nervous system, right? And understanding what trauma is and how that happens, and then the effect that it has on our lives after the fact is crucial. I actually talked quite a bit about it in satsang yesterday about traumas, and I'll excerpt that video so that you can see it. Because if you understand what's happening, your fighting with it will become less. Because I can sense that. I mean, there's the fight. We want to get rid of it, right? But it can't be gotten rid of like that, because it was the threat of danger that and no way out of that danger that created the trauma. It's an energetic pattern in the nervous system that is a response to an environment that is dangerous to it. And as long as the danger remains, it will be in that state. And it gets so stuck in that state with the assumption that it's always going to be like this, that even when the environment changes, the assumption is still there. So it's still operating as if it were in danger, even if it isn't. This is everybody, by the way. right? And so understanding that any attempt to fight it, it will perceive as a threat, which will put it deeper into that very trauma that the danger created in the first place. So unwittingly, we end up creating the very environment that sustains it when in fact we want to relieve it. Now, if we understand that, we can begin the process of dropping the fight, of becoming safe for ourselves. And that starts by simply being present with your own feelings, like we were doing in the meditation. Whatever was there, just let it be there. The moment I decide I don't like this feeling and I try to push it away, it signals to the nervous system that something's attacking. Because as far as the nervous system is concerned, it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. And of course, it is, because it can't do anything other than that. Right? So it's responding to a perceived threat. And in this case, this threat is you. So if you can drop out of that and just for a moment, just step back and let the feeling be whatever it is, without even calling it trauma, don't even put a name on it, just bring it down to the pure, raw feeling that's there. And just allow it to be there. Give it permission to be there. What you'll do is that you'll make a polar shift. Instead of fighting it, you're accepting it. Instead of hating it, you're loving it. Maybe not the "I love you so much" kind of happy stuff, but the kind of love that is simply accepting of things as they are. That creates the environment of safety in which these traumas can finally release themselves. You cannot force them away. You have to create an environment in which the nervous system determines that it's okay. It is now safe to drop those behaviors. Until then, it won't. And your observation about what'd you say that couldn't live through any divine intervention. Yeah, that's actually partially true. The good news is it doesn't have to. Right? The divine intervention is exactly what we're doing now. The wisdom that reveals how this all works. And the defensive mechanism could not possibly survive a divine intervention. And it doesn't. But it surrenders and dies to that divine intervention, because the divine intervention is the introduction of love. It is surrounding that very mechanism with so much love that it ceases to be that anymore. In a sense, it dies as the defense, and it is resurrected as the self-expression. And so she added something down. I have to add, I followed non-dual teaching. So this just adds to the dilemma in the sense that, for lack of a better term, I know better. Yeah. Hang around some more, Blinky Boo. This happens because a lot of non-dual teaching is too much in the head. It does not accommodate the heart. It doesn't make concessions for the experiences and the processes and the functioning of human life. It tries to explain them away. And I know it well because I used to do it. And it got me absolutely nowhere. And so what happens then is the mind appropriates non-dual language, not even necessarily non-dual. It can be any kind of spiritual practice. And then all of a sudden, the old habits come up, which they will, and the mind says, you should know better. See, you're still a screw up. And it's the same original sin in the back door. It's exactly the same thing, because the underlying assumption is still there. Genuine non-dual self-inquiry dives to that place prior to that assumption emerging. and then looking upon the whole nervous system with love and compassion and acceptance, even when it's unpleasant, right? And of course, isn't that what we all want? Don't we all want to be loved and accepted even when we're unpleasant? Isn't that what every child wanted? And isn't that what we didn't get that created this whole thing in the first place? So if the non-dual teaching that you've experienced is just leaving you with the sense that you should know better and more guilt, abandon it. It's not the real thing. The real teaching does not do that. Exactly the opposite. It opens the door to just total self-acceptance. And from there makes the inquiry, because you can only inquire into this stuff when you have accepted it. You can't inquire it with the desire to get rid of it. It's too smart. You can't con it. It sees right through the ruse. It can sense it. So you come to the sense of unconditional love, which is what it is, simply by letting yourself feel what you're feeling when you feel it. That's what I call the yoga of allowing. And it is something, it is a skill that has to be learned, because we've all been trained into resistance. We are trained to be exactly the opposite. So it is a skill that needs to be gained, but it comes with practice. And the good news is it doesn't take a lot of practice, because in fact, it's your nature. You're stepping out of what isn't you and what is you. And it's like, take an animal that's been locked up their whole life and put them out in a pasture, and they will run. They won't just sit there. Their natural inclination, the natural resiliency takes over, and they run. I've been actually watching a bunch of videos about animal rescue lately. It's just kind of gotten my attention. And just the stories are just amazing to see how resilient these critters can be, because they can let go of the past. We can learn from them. So hopefully that helps you, Blinky.
You touched on, I think, everything that everybody struggles with. And so that, Blinky, that was a lovely thing to share. And I have to point out that was courage and action, because one thing you said just watch and be the witness. This is courage. And so by Blinky sharing that, we were all able to kind of just witness what's going on. And Carl Lucy here is bringing up about the mind. And you beautifully touched on it, GP, because we get that we think courage is this. We're not going into battle. It's not courage to fight something and win it. It's courage to do that, to step back and be the witness and have acceptance, and then with love.
Far greater courage, right? Far greater courage, because the mind will tell you, if you do that, you're going to get hurt. You need me. You can't do this without me.
We're bonded for life. I just love, every time we come in here and we do something, this is easy to say it with that name, like thank you. Yeah. Thank you everybody for being here. GP, thank you for sharing that. Yes, you will put in the excerpt of the video from Satsang yesterday. Just a quick invitation, everybody, on every Sunday, GP does 2 hours of Satsang where you can interact and ask questions. But I'll spit it out here that we'd also invite you to come to gpwalsh.com, and that way you can find a whole bunch of goodies. But we're just so grateful that EWN is hosting us here and inviting us to do a meditation a day. We do it first Monday of every month, and we look forward to seeing you. I guess, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm saying this. See you in September.
Yes, it's very true.
Yeah. So please continue to put your comments here. We'll come back and check. Thank you so much. Thank you, GP.